So where was he? Didn't get an answer for that, and a lot of other things anyway. But you'll be very interested in this, because I was talking to more than one guy about this issue. The former President Mary Robinson shoved this back in my face with an attitude of shove it up your arse and set fire to it. But if this had been available for sad men in particular in 1995, there would have been as much chance of it getting through as there would be of the Pope becoming a Muslim. This is a very heavyweight academic. You see, in 1995 I went against it because I said, if you really do believe that women should have total equal rights as men, which they should have, well then they should also be totally equally liable. Bring gender equality to its logical destination. Remove gender from all issues, particularly and especially in the area of child custody. What they brought in America is what they brought in here, and it's called no-fault divorce. Deep breath. No fault divorce sidelines contract law because the judge is not interested in guilt, he's not interested in innocence, he's not even interested in why you want this divorce. In other words, it's unilateral divorce. It doesn't matter if you were the nicest daddy there ever was, or the best husband, or had won awards for it, nationally and internationally. If she wants out for any reason at all, you're gone. You lose your house, you lose your children, and what an awful sad men don't understand is, you lose half your pension, and effectively you're taking the state off the financial hook. That's all there. But it is frightening. But Rome got involved and should never have got involved. If you're a Democrat and I'm a Democrat, women are just as capable of doing everything as men are, including the second oldest profession in the world.
Rome wouldn't have any divorce at all, you know. I mean,
divorce is, the point about it is, if I was in business with a woman, okay, this mainly affects men, it does affect women, of course it does. It's very clever, it hits the one with the money. If a woman, let's say, won an awful lot of money, or she's in the business, and she marries this sad asshole, right, he can screw her for everything.
Absolutely.
It moves in for the one with the money, and 85% of the time, it's the man who has the money. But I mean, I thought to myself that, like, in 1995, why didn't they take that on board? That dude who was down across the way there, at the doorstep, he had married a Filipino. He's what I call part of the Filipino problem. A sad Irish man thinking with his trousers marries a Filipino. Okay? So she stays with him for 2 or 3 years, has a couple of kids, then she gets rid of him. Then she phones the family in the Philippines to come over here. I have a house for you.
Oh, I know,
But I mean, this is the way it is.
Terrible.
You know that in this country, if you live in a common law environment with a woman where you haven't signed anything in a registry office and you haven't gone into a church, if that relationship lasts longer than 3 years and breaks up, you're as liable as a man who did go into a church and who did go into a registry office. I know a man who lost his family home over. He was an only child. But I said to him, Declan, you brought her in because you just wanted somebody there to keep you warm in bed and to do the housework. She deserved it. She deserved half to your house because he was treating her wrongly. But in other words, once or twice men have said to me, so what's the answer to the problem? The answer to the problem is that this thing called marriage should be a business contract first and foremost, and then the judge or whatever says, well, do what you like, or the priest, do what you like about the romance. In other words, if I was in business with a woman and she's screwing the business, I call the cops. Cops investigate, there's a case, goes to court, she's fined, goes to jail. I move in to sue because contract law applies. But where you get an environment where contract law doesn't apply, the law is turned totally inside out. It means that you lose everything through no fault of your own. But the idea of the law is to reward the innocent and punish the guilty. Not in this case.
It's very complicated.
No, it's not. It couldn't be simpler. But I knew men, okay, in particular, one guy in particular who had a lousy attitude. The lads just, at the time, they just rubbed their hands together and said, oh yeah, more power over the girl, you know. But so whilst I point this out to men, I also say, you have no respect for women, don't complain. But it is frightening, and an utter nightmare. Got in here so easy.
But what about all the women now with children who are out there in our society here, and there are no fathers?
Look, the point about it is, you must look back. This guy's a very heavyweight academic. If you look back at the feminist movement, they brought in no-fault divorce, abortion on demand, okay? And they also convinced the legislators that daddies weren't needed, the single parent. Well, the Brits are waking up to that one big time as their societies and their cities crumble, where you have 60% single parent in single states, right? And they go into the crime rate. In other words, what Kevin Myers said was actually true. Have you word of it? Oh yeah, if you bring, this is why this Islamic thing is flying through, it's going like wildfire. The point about it is that for reasons which have nothing to do with morality, the removal of the law of legitimacy was the greatest subversive act of any parliament. Because what it meant now is that not only could the single career mother, get a life, she can also get a council house. She doesn't need a father. So what do you do? What the Daily Mail described it as, what you have now is generations of very angry, very embittered, totally immoral, uneducated, brutalised yobs. Oh yeah. But you don't have to be a believer. You know, even if you look at, let's say, Christianity, it's a good model to keep. Like, in other words, the word moral should apply to somebody who doesn't believe in anything. It's a social code.
Oh yeah.
Look at Britain. The British are fucking in bitch. And by the way, there are some who believe that this is going into very dark things. There are some who believe that the feminist movement was a front for an intelligence agency to restructure societies, socially, culturally, socio-economically. The whites are now in the minority in London. By 2042, they'll be in the minority in America. There is something. Oh yeah, but there is something happening. If you look, for example, like, don't tell me that academic achievement is a sign of intelligence. Oh no, look at the financial world. I'll give you an example of a very good intelligent remark. This woman says to me down in Kerry, I never want to see the old Ireland again. Don't tell me the pill liberated women. It didn't. It liberated men. And so did abortion. It takes men off the child support hook. Of course it is. Oh yeah. I mean, if a man gets a reputation for, you know, getting a lot of women into bed, he's a stud. If a woman does the same thing, she's a whore.
Well, that's still
of course.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This feminist movement, but particularly it convinced the legislators that you don't need, that is not needed anymore. Anybody with half a brain knows. But put it this way, my father used to say, he didn't sit down and talk about Dr. Spock. He said, basically, very simple English, he said, if you bring trouble home here, I'll kick you so hard, you'll be wearing my boot up your arse for the next 6 months. That was it. And you know something, I respect him for it. But the point about it is, if you look at what's happening here and what's happening in Britain, well, that man Baskerville, okay, I've one guy, only one, and I've handed out 500 over something like 6 or 7 years, he literally collapsed, right? It's like, did you not understand, Kevin, that when you get divorced, okay, it does not mean you don't have a wife anymore. That's what it costs you mean that. It means that the wife and kids you have will now cost you 40% more. Because you've got to go take your own. The cost of having a wife and kids increases by 40%. Of course it does. But these are very basic things. You know, oh no, unless you regulate these things. Like, if you have a society where, like in Britain, in America it's 60%, in Britain you have a spiralling divorce rate, again for reasons which have nothing to do with morality, that will take society down. That's why the strength of Islam is family. The strength of Islam is family. Anybody who have a brain, anybody have a brain would have a brain knows this. But as an old farmer down the country once said to me, he said, say what you like about it. Here's a good example, another good example of intelligence. He said, say what you like about the lads in Rome. But he said, if the lads in Rome hadn't got the Irish rabbit mode, as you put it impolitely, you wouldn't have a situation where 2 out of every 3 Australians have Irish blood in them. You wouldn't have the Irish-American connection, and you wouldn't have it in Canada and all other countries. That's absolutely true, Martin. Yeah, never thought about that. But do you see how this family thing not only is good for society, but it's good for countries.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, the Germans are in a situation now, if you want to maintain your population at a safe level, culturally, socio-demographic, okay? You have to have a birth rate of 2.1 to 1. Germany's is 1.4 to 1. In 25 years' time, there'll be economic wasteland in Germany because there simply won't be people there. But you see what I'm saying?
They'll have to have enough stories.
They're bringing in enough now anyway, aren't they?
But what I'm saying to you is that even if you look at this and you look at this theory about the feminist movement, one thing is for sure, the feminist movement had an international political effect way beyond its social size.
It was needed at the time.
No, that's always
It was. It was needed.
The idea was that after you had 6 million more than the death class, if it had continued, then demographically the Jew would have been so outnumbered he would have been fucking gone. So you bring in abortion. There's 8 million in Britain, other countries. So not only has the damage, if you like, been repaired, it's been reversed in their favour. It's a very dark theory. It's a very, very dark theory. But if you look at the feminist movement was far too advanced ideologically and had too far an effect socio-culturally, demographically in countries way beyond its social status. Some believe it was actually an intelligent community agenda.
What about domestic violence?
Oh no, there's any man against a woman should be fucking...
A lot of them are killing women and
but the
killing,
point about it is, we know that too.
Yeah.
We know that it was a problem with marriage in this country. But, for example, if you don't have a break on it, I mean, but you just bring in divorce and say to somebody who's been kicking his wife around, oh yeah, you can marry again, or some woman who's been hurting around, oh yeah, you can marry. No, you put a break on it. If you have a lousy record being as a wife beater, well then the state says to you, no, we're like Rome has annulments, and they give barring orders. I know where to have barring orders, they put in them, because they haven't been nice guys, right? And Rome says no. So Rome says, we'll give your wife permission to marry again, but not you. No, the state could do the same thing.
Rome hasn't great regard for women.
We know that. The point
That's
about
the
it
whole
is,
problem,
but at the
isn't it?
end of the day,
Yeah.
don't tell me, as that woman down in Kerry said, don't tell me it liberated women. It liberated men.
Both it liberated.
And so did the
I suppose,
abortion.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, what I find
Yeah.
sinister about the pro-abortion people is this: that if I was in a conversation with them and said, before we begin this conversation, I'll give you my definition of it. If you agree, I'll sit down and talk to you. Okay. I'd ask them, when this procedure called abortion is completed, has the event we all understand as death taken place? Of course it has. I find it sinister that you won't admit that. Like, I mean, I'm not standing on a moral platform. I'm simply saying, if a woman tells me that literally being butchered by two doctors, usually men, is liberation, I know them. I know the victims of it. But you see, abortion on demand, no fault divorce, the single parenting was just as sinister because the legislator said no, daddy can't do this. Okay? Come on, think of it. It's something to do with it.
How did we start talking to you?
Because you Tom Clark.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying to you is that the 1916 people who gave us our freedom, what they wanted in particular was freedom, but they wanted the citizen to be informed of what was going on with the state. The more informed the citizen is, the more he can participate in matters to do with the state. But 1995 was a classic. I know them. One guy in particular, I have to say, I know it's not nice, but there is still a little bit of pleasure in this. He says to me, fuck you. You shove all your theories right up your arse, okay? We want divorce. Go fuck yourself. I know you're going against it for reasons you have nothing to do with religion. That's Martin. 3 years ago, Martin developed motor neuron disease, okay? The old lady didn't want to go into Florence Nightingale mode. He's on the street.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying here?
Terrible.
At the end of the day, and I know them, I know guys who have nothing left. They've lost their jobs, they've lost their pensions, okay? They've lost their kids, and they've lost the home.
Well, I don't know. Most women, though, will stay with a man if he's okay. There's a reason
like
why,
I say,
why it will break up.
I tell these guys, and it's very, very heavyweight academic stuff there. I tell these guys what they did, okay? But I also tell them, you had no respect for women. I had.
The problem,
but even before I heard of this guy Baskerville, and I spent half a day checking him out, I was so shocked by it. I said, women should have total equal rights to men. So take gender equality to its logical destination. Remove all gender from all decisions and all issues, including and especially child custody. But as the man says, amongst a lot of other interesting things, he says, who gets custody of the kids is a huge factor in deciding who files for divorce.
Yeah, exactly.
Did I give you one?
Yeah.
Have a very strong drink before you go online, because when I Baskerville is Episcopalian, he doesn't bring religion into it, but he's not shouting for Rome. But when I came across him first, I was right in 1995. Common sense told me. But when I came across him first and saw, okay, I was so shocked. I actually thought it was some kind of very sophisticated academic April Fool's Day joke. But Mary Robinson passed me there the other side, Marion Street, and I stopped and I was chatting to me, somebody famous now, isn't it? Just to get it geared up a bit. Handed it out, and here's what she did. Oh, you're on the campaign trail. Indeed. And walked on. But about 6 months later, I saw her down on Leinster Street, and she was ahead of me, maybe where the bus stop is away. The head went down immediately, which told me she took a note of that. And a friend of mine said, she's a constitutional lawyer. Not only did she take a note of that, but she realised that the guy who's the author of all this is a very heavyweight academic. It's not as if he was a crusader. Crusaders can be pushed aside, as crusaders, but not this guy. If that was available for every sad man in this country, there'd be an outbreak of risk. Because some men, there's this feeling among some women, not all women, that men don't have the feelings that women have. Well, some men go insane with grief and they kill the kids. They do. That guy down the country, he was from Indian background. You want the 2 kids? He killed them. What some of them do is, they go into a dreadful emotional turmoil, and they know that they're going to meet their own kids with somebody else holding them by the hand. No, they go insane. They go insane with grief. There's a couple of examples there. They go insane with grief. I'm a sensitive man. I cry easily. I'm proud of it. I cry. Same as I laugh when I'm told a good joke.
Sure.
But what I'm saying to you is that this guy Baskerville.
Are you married yourself?
No, I live with 4 women. I left 2 and 2 left me. They leave you when you get older. But I couldn't take the marriage thing. What I'm saying is, I'm seeing this all around me, and it's like going into a bank and there's people, ordinary guys, wheeling out trolleys of money, and no one's talking to them. I see that this 40-year-old international extortion act that kills men off. That literally destroys it. That's why Robin Williams hung himself, because he couldn't keep up the maintenance payments. Think about it. Oh yeah, this thing called divorce, as Professor Baskerville says, it's not a phenomenon, it's a regime. A vast bureaucratic empire that permeates national and local governments. And what he's saying also is that although everybody's familiar with the social consequences, very few are familiar with the enormous power and reach of the state.
Yeah.
But even in 1995, I told these guys,